Okay.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Hindu Physicians International Distinguished Physician Lecture Series. Today is June 21st, 2026. It's a few minutes after 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So we are having some technical challenges, but Dr. Shiva is handling them. So you see my PowerPoint. That is the logo of the Hindu Physicians International. And we are moving on to today's presentation. Again, that is the logo. Our HPI mantra is Sharira Madhyam Khalu Dharma Sadhanam, which basically means body is your first temple to worship. And that holds true not just for the patients, but also for the physicians, because if the physicians don't take care of their body, they will not be able to take care of their patients. Very important, there was an IMA study very recently which showed that physicians in India are dying 10 years earlier than the general population. So physicians have to take care of themselves. As I said, that today's distinguished speaker is Dr. Lakshmi Talanki, and her topic for talk is Nutrition 360, food as the first line of defense against disease. And that will be a very interesting presentation. A little bit about HPI. What is HPI? We are a faith-based charity by physicians of dharmic origin that is meant to serve the entire humanity. We have a self-governing board with 5 members. We are a non-profit organization registered as 501c3 in the state of New York. And basically, the concepts are Sanatana concepts like Nar Seva, Narayan Seva, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. So those are the things we follow in rendering service to the humanity. I'm not going to make it very difficult. Why we wanted to have HPI? There are multitudes of faith-based medical charities. There are physician organizations of Indian origin, but they are secular. They do not actually entertain Sanatana concepts. So we decided that there is need for a platform for dharmic physicians, whether they are of Hindu faith or Sanatana faith or Sikh faith or Buddhist faith or Jain faith, to come together on the same platform to provide selfless service or seva to the humanity. We do not discriminate amongst our subjects. So that is the board of directors. I will not read the names, but this is international advisory board also of 5 distinguished physicians chosen for their excellence in the fields. And then we have an executive committee of younger physicians, medical students who do actual work. So that is, and we are always looking for younger physician volunteers to take other responsibilities. So if anyone is interested in taking some responsibility, please give me a call. I'll be very open to you. What are our objectives? Short term objectives are performing seva activities worldwide in the community. What are the long term objectives? Create rapid response medical teams, provide HADR or humanitarian assistance and disaster relief, promote prevention, research, and access to treatment for common diseases, assist in availability of clean water, and help with cleaning up of environmental degradation. That is one of the major challenges. The membership of HPI is free. You go onto our website, there's a form, you just fill up that form. Whether you are a physician, surgeon, respiratory therapist, psychologist, social worker, membership, medical student membership is free for everyone. There's a form for community seva project. If you are doing a seva project in your community, you fill that up. We will give it HPI certification. You retain full control as director of the project. HPI does not interfere. We want you to be ethical, but we will give HPI certification. So that is the community seva project. So we come to our today's series lecture, That is the flyer some people must have seen with Dr. Talanki's picture. She is actually formerly an associate professor in the Department of Orthodontics at Boston University. She's an award-winning orthodontist with over 20 years of clinical experience. She's also a recipient of the Presidential Volunteer Hero Award from President Biden for supporting healthcare providers during COVID. She's a member of and volunteers for a number of Hindu organizations that include Seva and A4H and possibly GIST that she'll be referring to. So at HPI, our focus is on Seva. We believe in promoting Seva activities. Today is June 21st, the International Yoga Day. I'm very pleased to announce that HPI was one of the sponsors of International Yoga Day celebration at one of the local temples, Vattal Dham Temple. And this is a picture of a Seva activity that we supported, BAPS Charities Walkathon, annual walkathon on June 6th. And that actually is the appreciation certificate from BAPS Charities. This is opening the ribbon for the charity. This is a program supported by HPI General Secretary Dr. Rakesh Sharma in New York in collaboration with the Rotary Club of New York. And that again is from the same Seva activity. We have supported the Cleveland Food Bank Seva project when we sponsored 12,000 actually free meals for the homeless people. So we do these kind of Seva activities. These are some of the pictures. We did a Seva activity at one of the cancer survivors charity called Gathering Place. They focus on, survivors, women and children from the cancer, and, they require rehab activities. So actually these are the pictures being shown, women who, because of chemotherapy, lose their hair. It's an issue of self-esteem and all. So we, funded the wigs for women. So these are the things we do. We would encourage you to go on our website, donate and financially support the HPI Hindu Physicians International. You can pay by PayPal or mail a check to our PO box. There is zero overhead. We do not actually charge anything to the organization. All the donations raised go for Seva activity. And finally, before I hand over the platform to Dr. Lakshmi Talanki, this is the Swasti Vachan, so I'll read it for you. Om Swasti na Indro Vradrshavaha Swasti na Pusha Vishwavedaha Swasti nastakshayo arishtanemihi Swasti no brahspatir dadhatu. Om Shanti Shanti Om. And we are ready with our guest lecturer or distinguished speaker, Dr. Lakshmi Talanki. Ma'am, the platform is yours. You are welcome, and your PowerPoint will come out very soon. It's in the capable hands of Dr. Siva.
No, she's going to share herself.
Okay, all right. Please go ahead.
Sure. Namaste, everyone. And today, and a very warm welcome to the presentation. Before I begin, I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude to the Hindu Physicians International for providing this wonderful platform. And also my special thanks to Dr. Adityanathji for the invitation, support, and the opportunity to share this important topic with all of you. It is truly an honor and privilege to be here. Today is especially meaningful as we celebrate the International Day of Yoga, and yoga teaches us the importance of balance between mindfulness and harmony between the body, mind, and spirituality. We are also celebrating Father's Day, a very time to honor all the wonderful fathers and the father figures whose guidance, sacrifices, and unconditional love shape these families and communities. These celebrations connect the beautiful topic of today, which is the Nutrition 360. It's a complete view of healthy eating. a broad initiative focused on balanced nutrition to maintain good health, boost immunity, and delay non-communicable diseases, NCDs. And this initiative is part
Dr.
of...
Talanki, I think you have to share your screen again.
Oh, it's not...
Yeah, because I was sharing my screen, so at that point, yeah, so you have to go back and share again the same way you did before.
Perfect. Hold on 1 second. I lost the...
It might be under more again. It's the main screen. You go there and you hit share. Yeah, we can see
Okay,
your
we got
screen.
it. We got it.
You got it. Okay. Thank you, Arjun. Thank you so much. Let me go back to the slide. Okay. So, but you were able to hear the first introduction, right?
Yes, yes. And the slide is there now.
Got it. So GIST is part of the Global Indian Scientists and Technocrats, and GIST USA is launched last year in 2025. And this is part of the Ayush Ministry from the Bharat. And we want to bring in yoga, how yoga and meditation is. We want to bring awareness to Ayurveda in America. That is the whole purpose of one of the verticals of GIST, and which is the Nutrition 360. And I'm trying to bring in the attention today regarding how mindful eating will also help in our health and other overall benefits of that. And since today is International Yoga Day, I would also like to bring attention to the people to show the importance of how much our Indian knowledge system and how, in what depth they were trying to analyze it, just how the yoga itself, like even the simple hand gestures, which are called as mudras, can really affect your breathing or any other part of your body. So when we take a small example of the mudra therapy, if you see why it is so important to have our hand gestures, if you take your hand and the fingertips, all of these tips are having direct connections with your brain. So that is the reason why even we have the Anjali Mudra or the Namaste, which is very important to bring the connecting the right and the left hemispheres of the brain. And each fingertips represents different parts of the brain, different lobes of the brain. So even if you do a simple small gestures, like if you keep your palm down and breathe, take a deep breath, and then when you keep your palms open and take a deep breath, you can see a big difference. And then the chin mudra, which is like this, also makes your lung capacity changes. When you try this yourself, you'll realize it. And then once you keep your fingers in this way, and then you take a deep breath, it's so much different than when you close your fist and take a deep breath. So you will be seeing so many different levels of lung capacity increases, even with just small gestures. So this is how much our ancient sages were able to go in so much depth to give us the knowledge. So we need to incorporate all of these knowledge system into our daily lives. So since we can have, like, even the mudra therapy itself can be one huge presentation by itself, which is also one of the parts of the yoga therapy. And GIST is another initiative which has multiple verticals. And like I said, Nutrition 360 is one of them. And then it is being introduced in many different countries. And more than 400 volunteers are helping this to get some recognition for Ayurveda and many other health-related issues, so that way the people will be able to eat well. What is the reason for the GIST to have the Nutrition 360? That's mainly because in any country, developing or underdeveloped countries, there is a rising cases of ADHD, autism, mental health, and many other issues, which is becoming very pandemic. And then there is like a huge increase in the C-section deliveries instead of the normal deliveries. It's becoming like such a normal to have C-section, even though that is not how it was when you look at the historical data previously. And all of these are causing very onset of NCDs, the non-communicable diseases, which can easily be prevented just because of the way you eat. And many kids are having early menarche, and we are seeing its implications regarding, and how also the obesity is becoming a constant, huge problem among not just only adults, but also children. And all these ultra-processed food is becoming so much, like 40-fold increase in 2 decades. That is like mainly because of the advertisement and how the children are exposed to. They're also constantly being fed with all this information about how cool and how those companies, mainly because of their greed, the corporate greed is driving the industry, the food industry, and also influencing our children so much. So we need to detox them, not just with the food, but also digitally to control. And we need to have some policies and the governments to make sure that kids are protected from all these false advertisements. And the cost of all these problems are coming close to $13 trillion globally. And most of it was, you can see, almost 11% is from the United States. That is almost 6 to 7 trillions we are spending mostly on these diet-related and health non-communicable diseases to maintain it. So most of it can be easily controlled just with your diet and lifestyle. Unfortunately, this information is not available to the mainstream, and this is exactly why our GIST and the Nutrition 360 is aiming to control that. And how is this going to be dietary choices and the life practices? What is the main important? We have to prioritize holistic well-being. And it's not just the physical, but also the mind and spirituality. And you have to treat food as both as a nourishment and medicine, not just food should be eaten as just for the taste or for the satisfaction. Because otherwise what happens is you will be eating medicine as part of a food eventually if your health gets deteriorated. We need to be steer clear of incompatible food combinations. That means viruddha ahara. That means when the food is combined in a certain way, it will enhance its absorption, digestion capacity. At the same time, there are some food which will also act in a negative way. So it's very important for us to understand how to eat it, when to eat it, how much to eat it, and also in what capacity and combinations are healthier for you. So Ayurveda gives all this information for us in such a nice way that we are trying to go back to our roots to understand that. And also many of the cuisines does not incorporate the spices into their daily meals. So which is also many research is coming forward and coming out and showing us the importance of all these spices for our food, especially the turmeric, cumin, black pepper. So many research has been published now to validate our ancient wisdom, which was already proven and which was in practice before. So we need to start going back to our roots to understand and get the actual dinacharya and the ritucharya from our Ayurveda to understand how well we can incorporate those things into our lives. And also, it's not just what to eat, it's like when not to eat. How about the advantages of fasting? So that way we will have some cleansing going on and detoxification, how important it is. It cannot be stressed enough, because once we are able to get the Nobel Prize for the research of the fasting, only then people are understanding the importance of it. But our ancestors were incorporated that as a part of their lifestyle. Every 2 weeks, Ekadashi fasting was one of the very common thing. Pretty much everybody in the community followed. So now we are realizing how important that Ekadashi fasting is, because it is regulating along with the our grahas, that means the celestial body. So our ancestors were so in-depth knowledge, not just like when you do it just for the physical benefits, but also to get exponential results. They also had incorporated the celestial bodies and the gravitational pull, and how those forces and the energies, how it can affect our fasting and our other cleansing rituals which we would follow. So when we go back to the fasting, what exactly happens? The fasting helps us to remove all those premature cells. Those are the ones which cause cancer and which will cause more damage to the body. So those kind of cells will not be able to sustain the deprivation of food and water. That is the Nirjala fasting. And now the research has been showing that up to 36 hours, if you do fasting, that is when you will see a huge benefits, especially after the 18 hours. So all that information, now the current research is coming up and validating what it was already previously known from our rishis and rishikas. So those information, once we have like our modern science validating, then most of the people will get some kind of validity to our ancient system, and then they start incorporating it. So it's very important for us to educate in the grassroots levels and bring attention to the people. So let us see how we can try to do this. This is a fly model experiment by Carlos Ribeiro, where he did the fruit flies and the touch with the using the touch screen technology, and he showed the difference between protein versus sugar. The sugar was 4 times more addictive than drugs. The drugs, that those are like real hardcore drugs. The sugar addiction is so much more prevalent, and it is more stronger to detox yourself. So this recognizes the significance of the gut microbiome, and it promotes its health through proper nutrition. So let us watch this clip so that way you will understand.
What happens in the brain at the moment we pick a dessert rather than an appetizer, or fish rather than red meat? Who is really pulling the strings? Ribeiro and his team are leading researchers on food choices.
What we really want is to find all the components, all the genes, the molecules, the neurons, which direct feeding decisions. And for that, we have to be able to look at very fine and small effects.
The simplicity of this animal model, the fly, makes it possible to explore new avenues and new hypotheses. To understand the feeding behavior of the fly, Carlos Ribeiro has developed a machine that monitors the insect's choices in great detail.
When it's touching the food, which is in the other electrode with its tongue, the proboscis, then we can measure that with the sensor here, which is the same sensor which you use on your iPad and your iPhone to detect touch on the screen. Just that here, We don't detect the touch on screen, but the touch of the food. And so we can really now dissect and analyze the choice of the fly, if she eats protein or sugar, but also when she's eating from the different foods, how it eats, how much it eats, how fast it eats, how often it eats, and really dissect all the details of the decisions which are controlled by the brain.
Thanks to this technique, he's been able to prove that the main reason for choosing food is, first of all, deficiencies. Naturally, flies that lack protein will choose protein-rich food. But looking more closely, Ribeiro observed that this is not always the case.
Dr. Talanki,
sometimes actually we had some flies which didn't have this strong urge to eat protein. And then we were wondering why.
If you want to pause that, I don't know if you wanted the video to show, because the video will not show unless you share your whole screen then. Because right now the video is
not showing.
seen.
Only the audio is being.
Right. And that's because you've shared just your PowerPoint, right? If you shared your whole screen, then the video would show. So maybe
my whole screen is sharing.
No, I think you're sharing the PowerPoint. So just a second, let me. Okay, wait. Okay, now I'm going to stop sharing. Now, if you want to share again,
okay.
But this time choose whole screen, the desktop. It'll say something like desktop. So share the whole thing. Then when you play the video, if you switch to that tab, that whole video will be seen.
Got it. That was exactly what I was sharing before, but I don't know.
What happens in the brain at the moment we pick a dessert rather than an
But you have to
appetizer?
share your screen now.
What happens in the brain at the moment we pick a dessert rather than an appetizer? Or fish rather than red meat? Fish rather than who is really pulling the strings? Carlos Ribeiro and his team are leading researchers on food choices. Carlos Ribeiro and his team are leading researchers on
all
food
the
choices.
components, all the genes,
Red
the
meat.
molecules, the neurons
really
which
pulling the
direct
strings?
all the decisions. And for that, we have
I think it's playing in two places now.
direct all decisions. And for that, we have to be able
The simplicity
to
of this animal model, the fly, makes it possible to explore new
Dr.
avenues.
Talanki, this is now playing twice.
That's what I'm figuring. I think from your side and mine is both playing.
No, I'm not playing it at all. So
that was the case, right? And so when we looked at, it turned out.
Yeah, but we're not seeing your screen. You have to share your screen.
Protein.
Okay, you're not able to see the screen?
No, we're only seeing
audio
this
is audible.
picture gallery. Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, let me just go back to this one. I'm sharing the whole screen. I don't know why.
Because I had shared in order to stop your sharing. Now, if you share again, this time share your whole screen, not just the PowerPoint. Hit share again.
What happens in the brain at the moment
No, don't play that right now.
rather than
First
an
share
appetizer?
your screen.
Or fish rather than red meat? Who is really pulling the strings?
You can ask your cousin to come again and share the screen.
See, the whole screen is what I'm sharing.
No, it's not shared. That's what I'm telling you. Yeah.
Can you see now?
Now we can see.
Yeah. Yes, now we can see.
Sorry about that. Okay. Let's play this.
Carlos Ribeiro and his team are leading researchers on food choices.
What we really want is to find all the components, all the genes, the molecules, the neurons which direct feeding decisions. And for that, we have to be able to look at very fine and small effects.
The simplicity of this animal model, the fly, makes it possible to explore new avenues and new hypotheses. To understand the feeding behavior of the fly, Carlos Ribeiro has developed a machine that monitors the insect's choices in great detail.
When it's touching the food, which is in the other electrode with its tongue, the proboscis, then we can measure that with the sensor here, which is the same sensor which you use on your iPad and your iPhone to detect touch on the screen. Just that here, we don't detect the touch on the screen, but the touch of the food. And so we can really now dissect and analyze the choice of the fly, if she eats protein or sugar, but also when she's eating from the different foods, how it eats, how much it eats, how fast it eats, how often it eats, and really dissect all the details of the decisions which are controlled by the brain.
Thanks to this technique, he's been able to prove that the main reason for choosing food is, first of all, deficiencies. Naturally, flies that lack protein will choose protein-rich food. But looking more closely, Ribeiro observed that this is not always the case.
Sometimes, actually, we had some flies which didn't have this strong urge to eat protein. And then we were wondering why that was the case, right? And so when we looked at, it turned out that the flies which had no craving for protein had gut microbes. And so following up on many experiments, we could show that there are two specific gut microbes which, when they are in the fly, they suppress protein appetite, and therefore these two microbes have a very important influence on protein cravings in flies.
Flies, when choosing their diet, are influenced by the bacteria in their gut. This unexpected discovery raises an important question. Does the human intestinal flora, called the microbiome, also act on our brains? Do our gut bacteria play a role in our food preferences?
Let's go back to the presentation. So this tells us how the gut bacteria affects our brain so much. So now they are beginning to understand how these experiments are validating our gut-brain axis, which was very well established in Ayurveda from our ancient times. So all these modern day research is helping us to validate what was already known for us. So the enhanced overall well-being is so much important to prevent all these non-communicable diseases. And also, many times our ancient ancestors, they never used to take so many pills for every small thing. They would find remedies within their kitchen. So that is where we need to go back and start trying to manage our common minor ailments with our food. So that way we will not be having any of these side effects. So what we have to do with the Nutrition 360 is scientific approaches. So we can try to get our findings, clinical studies, validating all the Ayurvedic principles, which was already established, but we are validating with the modern science. So that way the Gen Zs and others who are more able to follow and have some authenticity to our ancient findings, which was already there. And we have to integrate the Ayurvedic concepts into our mainstream media, mainly the insurance, how we can try to get the policy to incorporate so that way those procedures will be covered and the insurance also will validate it. That is the main reason why we need to educate our grassroots levels and the policy making, so that way we will be able to incorporate Ayurveda into the mainstream. And you can also see when exactly the nutrition starts, what is the importance of it. It starts right from the beginning, right from the mother's womb. You can see how the gut bacteria, how the mother's nutrition affects the gut bacteria and the development of the children. Let us watch this video. Can you please let me know if you're able to see it?
Yeah.
It's impossible to avoid them. For decades, we've been surrounded by sweet and fatty foods, and the body has not been dealing well with these eating habits. But what about the brain? Do our mental health, our moods, and our brain abilities suffer from the wrong kind of nutrition?
We know that junk food is making us fat, but science is telling us now that it might also be shrinking our brains.
Brain researchers have joined the dining table to study the effects of our eating habits.
Diets that are high in fat and sugar in the long term lead to changes in part of the brain involved in memory.
This is a recent field of research, a developing science that spotlights a new facet of nutrition.
Habitual intake of foods high in fat and sugar results in a reprogramming of the brain.
In short, our brain is affected by what's on our plates. It all starts with our very first meals, even before birth. The brain is built up during pregnancy. How it functions later on depends on how it has been nourished by the expectant mother's diet over 9 months. A number of consequences of poor nutrition during gestation have been known for a long time. Today, scientists in Australia are looking at the repercussions of nutrition on brain function. Felice Chaka, a professor at the University of Melbourne, examined the behavior of babies after following the eating habits of 23,000 pregnant women.
We measured their intake of junk and processed foods. We measured their intake of the healthful foods, foods with lots of fiber and nutrients, etc. And then we looked at the emotional health of their children over the first few years of life, from 18 months to 5 years. Of course, taking into account things such as education, income, the mother's mental health, parenting practices, these sorts of things. And what we saw very clearly was that mothers who ate more junk and processed foods, so sweet drinks and salty snacks and, cakes, biscuits during their pregnancy, their children had more of these behaviours such as aggression and anger and tantrums.
This disquieting correlation suggests that the mother's diet impacts the mental development of the baby, though the link remains to be demonstrated on the biological level. In any case, Felice Chaka is convinced.
So what we also saw in this large Norwegian study is that the children's diet seemed to be important as well, independent of what mum ate. If children were eating too much junk and processed foods and or not enough of the healthful foods, they had more of these anger and aggressive type behaviours, but also sadness, anxiety, worry, nightmares.
Since then, Professor Chaka's conclusions have been confirmed by studies in Spain, the Netherlands, and Canada. Excess fat and sugar are now in the sights of scientists working on the brain. Excesses and deficiencies. Junk food is often low on essential nutrients, so it leaves the body, and especially the nerve cells, lacking.
So this explains for us how important the sugar and other junk food we need to avoid in our diet right from the beginning. And another important aspect is Dr. Emily Little. She's done her PhD, and she has discovered so much importance of how the breast milk and how the composition of the breast milk affects and changes, and all the concepts of how the modern and the Western about how when the baby is born to keep them away in a separate room from the mother, how it is so different with our traditional ancient system is now being discovered and revalidated from the Western scientists. So, which is so interesting to see that the breast milk composition changes from day and night, how the composition of the milk in the daytime versus nighttime, and how when the baby is sick, the composition is different from the same mother to the baby, and how it is different for a boy and a girl in case if you have any twins, and how the babies touch and all those the living cells which get migrated in integrate, and all the stem cells that comes from the mother's nutrition also helps in developing the gut brain axis to the baby in the future. So all of these were getting revalidated again. So it is very important for us to understand like how much wealth of knowledge we have, and that with this revalidation, which will give more authenticity to our ancient wisdom. And you can also see how the stem cells, which are being, it's not just the nourishment from the milk, mother's milk, but also it is like a living and nourishment, and also how the interaction between the mother and the infant is so important to have this biological loop that gives the transmission of all the information between the mother and the child to customize the kind of milk that is required for the baby. So it was very interesting research, and that also validates again. And another important thing, we are trying to shy away because of all the surgeries and C-section instead of natural deliveries for the childbirth is also affecting a lot. And another important thing is also delayed cord clamping. That means after the pulsations have ceased in the umbilical cord, and then at that particular time, if you do the clamping, then there is so much enhanced benefits. But unfortunately, these practices are not being followed, and which is also causing many adverse effects. And whenever there was this cord clamping was delayed, anemia and many other health issues were not even that much prevalent, but as much as what it is right now. So these are the practices we need to try to incorporate right from the beginning for the baby and the mother. And how does these workshops and awareness, we can try to incorporate what is being done in Bharat and many other countries. We need to introduce that in the America too. So that is what we are trying to educate our trainers to go into the schools, to the PTA, the teachers and the students and the siblings. And from the grassroots levels, if we bring in the change, then when there is a supply demand, then there will be much more easier for us to incorporate in the policy changes in the top level when the patients and the parents and people start asking for it. And we also have many of these Ayurveda Day we launched in 2025 in many different cities, and we do hopefully able to incorporate the Nutrition 360 all over US and globally. And as we believe in our mission, that is Sarve Santu Niramaya, we want everyone to be healthy and happy in this world. Like how the Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, we always believe that world is one big family. So how we can help using education in the agriculture, like how we can try to incorporate without any fertilizers and using all these kind of pesticides and all the preservatives, and how the nutrition can be well balanced, and the environment, how the sustainability also can be helped, because when you follow with mostly vegetarian diet, that it also helps with the environment too. And of course the AI can be used, and which can be helped into many different aspects for us. So what is the use of gut microbiome is what we need to explain and make everyone understand whether it is an enemy or a friend for you. So it can be both. We have both kind of bacteria in our intestine, and we need to make sure we are focusing our food in such a way that we will have more healthy bacteria in the gut microbiome. So how is that happening? That is how the panchakarmas in the Ayurveda helps us to detox every time and then reintroduce the good bacteria. And then that good bacteria will help with your mental health, physical health, and spiritual health, not just only the physical, nutritional level, but it also helps you to have a very strong mental health also. And we saw how important it is right from the children all the way to the adults, how your gut bacteria can affect your mental health. And it's very important to have a wholesome, comprehensive health and approach. And also we have so many of the times we have this hidden hunger. What is hidden hunger? That means the micronutrient deficiency, which are very hard to see those results, and because it is not macronutrient deficiencies, that it takes a very long time for us to see the results of it. But it does have a huge impact. And all the preservatives, chemicals, and the microplastics, all the antimicrobial agents, what we are going to be using in our food, and pretty much everywhere we are surrounded by plastics and the antimicrobial products, from soap to washing our body and to use everywhere. Those are the things we need to be very cognizant and then avoid as much as possible. And also the C-section delivery on the mother and the child, which I explained to you, very important. Those needs to be addressed and brought into the healthcare system of how we can try to promote natural deliveries, and then also educate about the delayed cord clamping. And also all the disturbances in the gut-brain axis, if there is no proper lactation, if the mother is not informed about the advantages of how it is very important to have the lactations and educations. And of course, the lifestyle interventions, in your dinacharya, you incorporate yoga, meditation, and pranayama, which also helps in your lifestyle. So if you incorporate all of these, you will hardly need any medicines in your life. You will be able to control most of your lifestyle diseases and all these non-communicable diseases. So the problem we have, all of these are the summaries what we went through. So this is exactly what the Nutrition 360 wants to bring in awareness programs. And this will be one last video. We will be watching how these experiments are helping.
At the University College Cork in Ireland, John Pryan does pioneering research on the microbiome. He's been able to prove that gut bacteria can influence certain behaviors in animals as well.
When you take microbes from highly anxious mice and transplant them to normal anxious mice, they become much more anxious, and vice versa. That even when you take them from normal, you can normalize the stress response and the anxiety.
Scientists now even consider the microbiome to be a kind of intermediary, a link between food and the brain.
The main factor that influences the composition of these microbes is the food we take. Diet and the diversity of the diet is really important from the moment we're born until we die in shaping the composition of the microbes. And so we're beginning to realize the importance that what we eat has on what's the inner microbes and how that's influencing what's going on in our brain.
Our well-being depends in one way or another on our microbiome. A diet that is good for our mood is...
So it's multiple research is showing the same thing about how important our microbiome is to maintain our health. So right now, there is sufficient evidence and all the modern science has been able to validate what was already known. So the important thing comes about food security and nutritional food. So what basically it is, food security compares to nutritional security. Food security is where when the country or like in a developing countries, they hardly have any food. So when you try to go and talk about nutrition, they may not even be able to comprehend or adapt to it. So depending on the countries and the needs of the globally, we have to cater it accordingly. So the nutritional security is when we talk about when they have too much food, too much junk food, too many things, choices to eat, and much more different types of problems we have, like obesity and all kinds of the gut bacteria trying to, especially when it is loaded with salt and sugar. So those are the reasons why we need to have catered the policies and also our education and the grassroots levels, depending on which country we are coming from and where what needs to be done. So then we need to have our certain goals for what the nation has to go in that. So summary, if we spend trillions of dollars to cure the diseases which can be prevented to begin with, is such a simple, affordable solution. So everybody comes and talks about affordable healthcare, affordable solutions for many things, but it's right there in your kitchen. So all I trying to say is go back to your kitchen and pay attention to the ingredients, what you're using and what you're eating, how you're eating. There are so much in-depth knowledge available about the cooking, also the recipes, how it is. So that way you will be informed about viruddhahar, like, the combinations, how you have to do, what you have to do. So basically, if we try to go back about our primary focus on whether we have enough food, and when we do have, what kind of right food are we eating, and how much are we eating, and is this grain what we are eating is like what kind of a glycemic index. So we need to have a balanced food. We have to have low glycemic index food like the millets and many other things, so your sugar doesn't spike and your insulin level the body has to produce is not getting affected too. So these are all the things we need to educate our whole community, so that way we can try to eat healthy and incorporate our food choices. And I'm also, of course, the poor countries, they have to go with what is available, so that way they'll at least have some nutrition. But at least in America, we have to try to focus on our nutritional security, so that way we are not overly, the food is not consumed in overly fashion, and also in the salt and sugar intake. So let us go with that. Any other questions or anything else?
Thank you very much indeed, Dr. Lakshmi Talanki, for a very fascinating presentation and lecture, and some suggestions how to change your gut microbiome, starting actually in utero from your babies, because that has some influence. Unfortunately, we are running short of time, but there's a question in the chat room by Dr. Pradeep Parekh, who's a cardiologist. And the question is that, do you have a website where you have suggestions regarding various age groups about their, let's say, nutritional food security or something like that?
Sure. GIST USA is one of the websites he can go through, and Nutrition 360 is one of the things. And all these material what I have presented today is being vetted by more than 400 healthcare professionals and all the people who are interested. And we are constantly adding the content depending on which country and where it is applicable and where it is more useful. And most of them are Ayurveda practitioners too. As we know, Ayurveda is more like customized depending on your body and the structure of your body, Vata, Pitta, and so you have to have someone to understand and if you have any diseases. But if you follow all these health protocols, and which we call it as dinacharya, like you follow, this becomes a routine, then you hardly need anybody to address all of your diseases. So you can prevent much, much more easily if you incorporate it when you're younger. So it is more important for us to reach all of this information to the schools and all the young people, and also, of course, the expectant mothers, so that way they will be able to have healthy babies to be as soon as they're born.
One last question, anyone? People do want your contact information. If I have your permission, I can share in our HPI group.
Sure, and I have shared in the slide to Dr.
Okay. So thank you very much indeed on this Father's Day and International Yoga Day for going back to our roots and fostering a food revolution worldwide.
Yes.
Is grounded in lifestyle interventions.
In Bharat, it is called Ahar Kranti.
Ahar Kranti. I just, translated into food revolution, but just the actual word here is Ahar Kranti. And for those of the people who are here as fathers, happy Father's Day. Again, going back to our roots, we don't consider father just as the biological father. Father is Pita Bhavati Mantrada. The one who gives you the guidance, the teaching is like your father. So we have a broader concept about that. Thank you very much indeed. We are going to stop this presentation now as we have run out of time. A recording would be available within next 24 hours, and I'll share in the groups on our LinkedIn page. And I will send it to Dr. Lakshmi Talanki also, because this is a good educational resource worth watching again more closely. Thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Namaste, and sorry about the technical glitches. This is the first time I'm using my Mac system from the Windows, so there was little.
It's okay. We got everything under control. Thank you, Dr. Lakshmi.